All right, so I'm joined here by Adam Thornton, who's also known as Lawler, of course, by the Rocket League community. You're probably more well known by that, I would say, than your
Yeah, a
your
little
real
bit.
name. So you're an RLCS caster, obviously, who's been around since the early days of Rocket League as an esport. You've casted multiple events like DreamHack events, RLCS events, of course, Northern Arena LAN, and most recently ELEAGUE, which was only about 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
So you've been able to travel quite a bit thanks to Rocket League, which is nice, I'm sure. And it really shows how the growth of Rocket League has it's just become a global esport at this point. Um, but I just mainly wanted to get your thoughts on E-League today. So first of all, I want to know what your expectations were before the tournament began. Like who did you think was going to do well at the tournament, and who did you think would win it all?
That's tough. Like E-League itself is like just as an event, expectation wise was one of those situations where I've watched all their other events. I'm a big CS:GO fan. I've watched some of the Street Fighter stuff because I've got some buddies that are really big into FGC. We used to go to like Buffalo Wild Wings and bet on the CS:GO games just for fun. So looking at it from just a bystander perspective and really taking in what they could bring to the table was something that we just knew it was going to be big, but we didn't know how big or what they were going to do. Being involved with it, it was kind of eye opening seeing what when you have this huge funding come in to see, okay, this is what they can do with production. This is the kind of B-roll that they're going to play. These are the highlight videos that they can pull immediately, which shows when you have that kind of staff. So from just expectation of like seeing it was super cool. As for the competitive aspect, like everybody had their eyes on Gale Force. I mean, Gale Force was literally the world champions 3 weeks prior. That kind of turnover isn't really long enough to see differing kind of play styles, I would say. And Gale Force is also one of those teams that they know how to handle a lot of events one after another. They do a really good job of taking time off, and I think that's something that a lot of teams could learn from. As soon as people were like, okay, we got invited to E-League, we got to practice, we got to scrim, we got to do all this. Sometimes it's actually better to just sit back and relax and take that time off and refresh and handle it. And you saw it from all the casters, like almost everybody talked about like, Gale Force is going to be the one that, you'll probably see in the finals. And even still, like none of us had expectations of G2 playing the way they did.
Yeah.
I think Achieves and I were on for the final match for the grand finals for the analyst desk, and both of them are like, it's gonna be an uphill battle, but it'll be close because we just didn't expect G2 to play the way they did. They really, really surprised us, I would say, but power to them. They best G2 in my opinion has ever looked. So it's
Yeah,
exciting
no,
stuff for North America. We need it. So
definitely. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like G2 definitely surprised a lot of people, I think. I don't think many people really thought to see them go to the semis even. But I mean,
yeah, it was
like,
weird.
they definitely had a great showing. And going on what you said earlier about the production, that was one of my questions later on, basically. But yeah, E-League I think hit it out of the park really with the production value and
Yeah,
everything of not only the stream but just the whole stage setup. Everything there looked great, at least from a spectator's point of view. So
good. I
hearing it
mean,
back from
means they
you,
did their job
yeah,
well.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
it's one of those situations like obviously like Rocket League and the RLCS has always been fantastic. I mean, the first time we got there, it blew our minds away to have a full, multi-million dollar set that was
yeah,
dedicated to this, carball game that we were playing. So just having, I mean, for those that aren't aware, like if you don't know who Turner Sports is or Turner in general, I mean, anytime you've watched Family Guy on TV or any major production or major show like that, Turner is the one behind it. They're absolutely massive. They're one of our major television channels in the United States. Um, so for people to kind of see what they're truly capable of, like, yeah, they're expensive, but they do a really good job, and I'm glad that carries through. They try to set a standard, and it's hard for others to compete because of how large they are. They're kind of the ones leading the industry in that sense. Because of that, you have, like Gfinity. Gfinity puts on a really good show too, and they use,
definitely.
BBC
Yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really happy to see that someone in North America is taking that example and really trying to set a precedent for everybody else because it's not easy to do. It's a big risk, even for channels like ESPN because ESPN used to do it when I was a kid with Halo. So
yeah,
yeah, it looked great. It was great to be a part of it too.
yeah. No, it definitely helps grow Rocket League as an esport. Seeing these big companies just invest in it, it's definitely helping out. But my next question is more about G2 actually. So we know that since they were picked up by G2 as an organization, they haven't had too much success. They haven't really lived up to expectations. Um, but how big do you think this win was for both the players and the org to finally win
I
a
mean,
proper event?
especially Kronovi. Kronovi has stated somewhat publicly that if they didn't go to land this year, he was going to be possibly considering elsewise, whether it be content creation or something. It's just,
Yeah,
he gave himself 3 seasons to really figure it out. So the fact that, to me, a team that is willing to handle adversity, go through a bunch of loss and failure and all that kind of stuff, they didn't even make playoffs a couple times and stuff.
yeah,
But to really stick together and prove that you can work through your problems that you have as a team and then go from being a team that's pretty much a laughing stock to a team that is the best in the world for a moment, is really something. It's aspiring. It shows to a lot of these younger guys that it is beneficial to work through your problems and work on your chemistry, because when G2 is on, it's disgusting. I mean, I know
for
Wavepunk
sure.
has always been a huge fan of their their misdirecting play, where you pass at one side and the shot's already happening before you can do anything about it. The only way you can make those saves is as close to real soccer as we really get, where you have to preemptively jump as a goalie and just hope that you read it correctly. So it's exciting. I know every single one of those guys has been craving to hold that trophy. I mean, Rizzo said it in the interview. Jay Naps has always been a little bit more quiet, so he doesn't say too much. But
Yeah,
I know for a lot of those guys, they've been putting a lot of work to finally get it. So I'm sure they're exuberant about the whole situation.
yeah, because like one of the main things you touched on there, I completely agree with. Like the fact that they've stuck together, it's something that you don't always see in Rocket League, of course. You
Hmm.
see teams who don't live up to expectations and then they just dissolve the next season. But
Right,
them
right.
sticking together, working through it, clearly helped them out, and
Yeah, I
we can
think
definitely see
it's.
it at ELEAGUE.
I mean, it's great because so the RLCS, obviously, there's the new rule that states if you're going to be an auto qualified team, you got to keep two
Yeah,
thirds of your starting roster. So the fact that they were able to do what they did, I think, sets a really good example for all of the other ones too. Because people are just ready to change. They're like, all right, this didn't work out. Let's just dissolve and go on to something else. So uh, for them to stay together and show that it can work, I think is really good for the scene in general. Um, because a lot of teams, I think Rogue is a prime example of that too. I think Intel is a good fit for that team, but it is going to take time for that change to really come to full
yeah,
fruition.
yeah,
And a lot of people, I think, don't understand that because we do have a very young player base and we haven't had, it's only been like 18, 19 months of actual competitive play at the pro scene. You look at like League of Legends where they'll pick up, foreign talent, they'll bring in, Koreans or, Chinese or whatever, and they just have a terrible season. The
yeah,
support player just doesn't work out. But then they have all this time to finally develop, and then the next season they come back and they're, top two again. So I'm glad to see that kind of mentality or that kind of concept actually worked in Rocket League, where you did bring in J Naps. You are trying a different roster. You're going to see if it works, and okay, now you finally stick with it. But now the work really begins for them. They got to find a way to stay at the top, which no team has really been able to do. It's weird. Rocket League's kind of a double-edged sword like that. Being at the top doesn't mean you get to stay at the top.
yeah. I didn't actually think of it until now, but now that you said that, do you ever see Rocket League like teams actually importing players, like similar to like we see in League of Legends or Dota and other
Um,
esports? Would you ever see that
I
happening?
think I think the Chinese build is going to tell us a lot. So they're working with Tencent right now to get the Chinese market
Yeah,
to play, which I think is going to bring in a lot of players. They have a very microtransaction heavy style player base, and when that region really takes a liking to something, they usually dominate at it.
yeah,
Um, CS is probably the one they don't. Shooters have never really been that region's strong point. It's always been like Sweden and
yeah,
Holland and all that kind of stuff. So um, it'll be interesting. I mean, we've seen the three-man pass plays coming out from Realize and the boys. So
yeah, definitely.
if they bring that kind of mechanic and then work against teams that'll actually contest that, because that was the big thing with OCE. OCE has a lot of talented players, but a lot of it was because they were able to do it freely. People weren't going off the backboard to contest it, and now that they're susceptible to that, their region as a whole is significantly better. I mean, you see what Chiefs are capable of. So
For sure. Yeah,
I think anytime you bring in a region that has that many people in it, you're going to see some really crazy stuff, and you may start seeing people like odd man out like Mystic, I think is a prime example. I think Mystic would be a good shoe-in for a lot of North American teams. But you got to find players that are one, mature enough, and two, willing to move across the country, let alone the world,
Yeah.
and be in a language that isn't their first and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot to take on. It really is.
Yeah,
So
because a lot of other esports, like a lot of major esports at least have like player houses and like in-house
right.
coaches, that kind of stuff. Um, do you think Rocket League would eventually
I
adopt
sure hope
those? Yeah.
so. I really, really hope so. The first Rocket League team to have a house was Endpoint,
Yeah.
and they went from being a team that didn't win a single game to being in the finals.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. So whether that's due to the gaming house or not, I think we need more of a widespread data pool for that. I know Ghost has considered it. There's a couple teams that have really tried. I know teams like G2 really benefit from boot camping. Right before RLCS, they boot camped for about a week, week and a half with Jazzo, their manager, at his house,
Hmm.
and it paid dividends. It really really helped them out just because they were able to focus on one thing, and that's play Rocket League. So when you don't have to focus on, when do I eat, should I work out, should I wake up at this time, and you can really get into a routine, you're going to really start to see these guys flourish. Um, but are we at that point yet? I don't think so. I think it's going to take a lot of stuff from the Psionic side. There needs to be a way for these orgs to get money back. I think in-game items are almost an absolute must. You're going to need, to me, ideally, I would like an esports package for teams where you can get
Yeah.
like a decal and a flag and a banner and all that kind of stuff, and use that funding because then they can use that not only to support the esports scene, but then the organization can use it to pay for those those managers, some player salaries, recoup some of the funds because a lot of them are taking hits right now, really really big hits. They're just hopeful for the future of Rocket League, which is good.
Yeah.
So I think the scene and the level of play will take another huge leap once we get that stuff going. I think it's inevitable. It's just a matter of when and how soon.
Yeah.
So
Hopefully that comes in because it'd be definitely beneficial for both the players and the orgs.
it's a whole
Uh,
lot of job opportunities for people in this community,
for
which would be
sure.
cool.
Yeah. Um, Going back to ELEAGUE, one of the main differences between this event and compared to others would be the format. So we
Loved it.
saw we saw the group stage round robin instead of just a double elimination format like we saw with
Mhm.
others. What did you think of it, first of all? And do you see other tournaments adopting that same format?
Um, I've been kind of hoping for a format like that for a long time. I personally do not like the RLCS World Championship format. I think it's too long. I think there's too many games. I think there's too many second chances. There's something about best of ones, like single elim, not like a best of three single elim or a best of five single elim, that is really entertaining and it's really, really clutch. I think the only way you can do that though is if we have as many events as we do. If we keep pumping out lands and stuff, and you see them more regularly, people will be less upset about like, oh, I lost one and now I'm out kind of situation. Especially when there's that much money on the long. If you have a bunch of $50,000 tournaments like DreamHack, okay, just go to the next one and really show up. So, it incentivizes it. But I love the concept of group stages. I think you really do get the best teams coming out. Um, because even still, if Market does really well on day one, there's no guarantee they're going to do well on day two. So, uh, which was also another surprise. Nobody expected
Yeah.
Market to go undefeated in groups. So I think groups are a great concept. I think you get really good matches out of it. You get to see everybody play everybody. And then after all that's said and done, you get done with the leg of it. And then day three, where everybody's super excited, the energy just keeps ramping up. There's no downtime. There's no third, fourth place match, which I hate. We go from this really hype match, and then we go back to third, fourth place, and then we go back to the grand finals. It's like it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. It doesn't work out. I've talked openly about how the RLCS goes from winners finals directly to lowers finals, and you now have a team has to play technically four best of sevens in a row, which was method, and winning that is just it's not gonna happen.
It's
There
yeah,
needs to be
it's tough.
there either needs to be like a solid 1 hour break or something for these guys to go from this really high adrenaline high down to a low and back up. It's tough for the players for competitive integrity purposes. And when you have groups, it kind of solves that. You get rid of all the okay, who's the best, who really deserves to be in here, and you can just focus on just win. And these games are going to get even more hype as we go on. So I really like E-League format. It was a way to test it out, and I'm glad that we got the grand finals that we did. Because that stuff could have went horrible. You know, you could have saw another clean sweep or something, and we didn't get that. You know, we
Yeah.
got really competitive games. So, and the
Yeah.
players liked it. I loved it. I thought it was perfect.
Oh, I loved it as a spectator as well. Like I'm used to watching like traditional soccer, right?
Right, right.
Where even in the World Cup, obviously it's a round robin group stage, same format, and
Hmm.
I think it is really better just to when you give the teams the opportunity to show their consistency, you normally get the better teams in the
Right.
final, and yeah, I think that's the
I
better
mean, plus it
format to be
adds. I
honest.
mean, there's unique excitement with that too. I mean, you're talking like tiebreaker situations. You know, you
Yeah,
have to win 3-1.
definitely.
Cloud9 has to win 3-1 against
Yep.
this team, otherwise they don't move on. You know,
Hmm.
stuff like that has its own kind of excitement. And there's a lot of people that in the general community talk about like it's not fair. They deserve this and they deserve that. I'm like, they should have won their games. Like,
For sure.
welcome to competition. You know, you either win or you're a loser. You lost. Like, there's no
Yeah.
participation trophy. Yeah, you're still walking away with like 10 grand, but you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So I do like the concept of like do or die situations because it is really exciting as a spectator and as a caster. You know, I can really, you know, sink my teeth into that and just, you know, fall in love with it all over again. So
Yeah. Definitely.
it's good stuff. Good stuff. I
Um,
love the format.
oh, I loved it as well. But going back to the final, G2 Gale Force. Um, obviously you said you didn't really expect G2 to come to this tournament and actually win it all, but after seeing them win that final match and seeing the emotions on both the G2 players' faces and then
Mhm.
Gale Force as well, specifically Turbo, of course.
Right.
How did you feel about that? Just seeing both sides.
Um, I loved it. I think it paints a good picture. It goes to show how much these guys truly care about the esports scene,
Yeah.
especially their game. It's just one of those situations where I saw there was a lot of negative things about it, but if I'm a big fan of Gale Force, let alone Turbo Pulsa, I want to know what he's going through. I want to connect with somebody on that level. I want to see that emotion, him, you know, breaking down because that to me is only going to drive me to like him more because I understand that he is going through things and I'm going to be there to support him,
Yeah.
you know? And for all the people that are against that or even booing in the crowd, like, welcome to sports. This is home field advantage. And if you come to my stadium, because I live next to Lambeau, we're going to boo you. What I don't like is after they win and they're doing the interview booing. That's just
Yeah.
disrespectful. You need to respect the people that won.
Yeah, for sure.
So to see G2 and their reaction of how excited they were and then see the contrast of that, that's just good entertainment. You know, that's just, it puts on a good show. People are invoking emotion. And that's what this is all about. It's to entertain as a business. So seeing both sides of it, I think was great. I think it showed up really, really well. Um, but at the same time, like to me, that's going to motivate me as a player. You know, like I see Turbo react like that. Turbo's now going to go back, reflect, and come in because I can guarantee he's probably thinking about that own goal. You know,
Yeah.
like there's these what if moments that play through their head, and that makes them stronger as a player. So
Yeah, for sure. Um, my next question is more about the NA EU rivalry as a whole. So, going back all the way to DreamHack Atlanta,
right,
we see Muffin Men come in, they win the whole tournament, get picked up by C9. After that, they win like the Northern Reno land. They look almost unstoppable. So a lot of people thought they were this NA powerhouse that is going to come to RLCS finals and possibly even take it all. They
right,
finished third, still a good showing, of course,
right.
but still not fully satisfied, right?
Hmm.
So NA as a region, I would say, took some criticism after that. But how big do you think this win at ELEAGUE was for NA as a whole, but for this whole rivalry?
Yeah, I kind of joked about that a little bit earlier. I think it's huge for NA because it
Yeah,
shows that a lot of us as commentators have pushed it and have said it because we truly believe it. Given any tournament, one of these teams in the top 10 that were at the World Championship can beat every other team at any given moment.
oh, I completely
They
agree. Yeah,
interchange. There is some that I feel are definitely a couple leagues ahead. I think Cloud9 is definitely one of those teams. Method, Gale Force, G2 when they're on. You know, there's certain teams
yeah,
that when they're really pushing are definitely a little bit of a like a step ahead. But if a team is on and they are feeling it and they're meshing well that day, like any of these teams are going to trade and go even. You know, it's going to go best of seven. You know, it's going to be 4-3.
yeah,
So I think this just proves that even more. I think it's really good though because it gets the region behind it. G2 is going to have an even bigger fan base than they already do.
yeah,
Because that win, it shows that like a lot of people are like, okay, poster boy Kronovia and fan favorite Rizzo, like
yeah,
let's get behind them even more because they just won and beat, you know, the world champion. So I think it's good, and I think it's a good team to do it too. You know, there's a lot of personality behind that team. There's a lot that you can get drawn to. So these other teams are gonna have to step it up. As much as I love Cloud9 and the boys there, they got to show some personality. Torment's starting to, and every interview he did at the World Championship, I at least laughed once, which is great. You know, that's how you get the fans. That's how you, when you go to Europe and compete, that's how you get people cheering for you. You know, DreamHack Germany just got announced.
Yep.
You know, there's going to be a favorite crowd. That's going to happen. You know, if they want to boo, so be it. That's how it is, man. You got to get over it.
For sure. One of my last questions was about DreamHack, actually. Yeah, so of course
Dude,
today,
I'm reading
today
your
it just
mind
got
today,
announced.
man. I'm on you.
Yeah, honestly. Today, yeah, we just got the announcement today then about Germany hosting the next DreamHack event. Assuming all the top teams are there, who are you putting your money on?
You got to count Method. I think Method's one of the more consistent teams, and they handle it well. I was kind of iffy on how they did pressure-wise, but I think they've handled that. I think they're fine on stage. I would love to see an OCE team there. Probably not going to happen, but I'd love it if they did. I want to see the Chiefs compete as many tournaments as possible. I just know those guys don't like to travel after flying 18 plus hours 2 ways.
Yeah.
If North America shows up, I think Energy will have a good performance. I think they need a bounce back, and I know they're motivated to do it.
Yeah.
Jacob's been putting a lot of work in as well. He personally is my kind of issue for that team. I'm glad to see that he's trying to fix it. Got to count Gale Force, always. Always got to count Gale Force.
What about what are your thoughts on Mocket? Sorry to interrupt you, but after seeing them,
They're fluky, man.
yeah.
They're weird. They're super weird. I think Pashy and Fairy Peak have shown that they can be really consistent in their play. Fairy Peak has been playing out of his mind for like a month straight now.
Yep.
Freaky to me needs to work on his consistency though. He has really, really good games and he has really, really poor games. He was a big problem for them at the World Championship, and that's just harsh reality. But I mean, roster swaps are coming up. That's the beauty of these tournaments. This is when you have the ability to try out somebody new in a live setting. So
Yeah.
I don't think they will. I think Mocket's got a good team. They just got to work on some of their kinks. And I'm pretty sure that they already tweeted that they're going to be there no matter what, whether it be through open qualifiers or otherwise. So that's kind of the nice thing is they're only inviting 4 teams, I think. I think they said they're inviting 4 teams, and then the rest are coming through qualifiers.
Yeah,
and they'll have another.
It's 20
Another
other
4.
teams? Like
Yeah.
it's 24 teams total, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. But I know they have 4 that they're inviting, and then they have so many qualifying spots, and then you can actually compete there for a chance to get there, because that's what they did in Sweden too last summer. So, which is crazy because there was a team that literally bought the game that day and then had to play Gale Force. It was
Yeah,
there was like 13 goals in the first like 2 minutes. It was rough.
yeah, that's ridiculous.
But
Can we hope
Yeah,
to
man.
see you there? Or,
I hope so. That's not up to me.
yeah.
DreamHack Atlanta, Eric, I'm looking at you. Please send me an invite so I can go to Germany. I would love to go drink some Guinness in Dublin. That'd be cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's I hope to be there. Those events are always super cool because I try to always take a little bit of extra time to like see the city and all that kind of stuff. So Rocket League's been nice to me, man. I've gotten to travel a lot and see a lot of things. As much as I hate flying now, it's cool to see places I've never thought I would get to, especially at the age I'm at. So I hope to, man. I hope to.
All right. Well, I'll let you go then. New update just hit, obviously.
Yeah,
I'll
I
let
gotta
you
go play now.
let you earn those snowflakes.
Thanks, man.
No worries. Thanks again for the interview, though. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Take care.